Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
What's up, people? Welcome in to hour number 3 of Middle Relief here on a Thursday. Mario Jerez along with Kevin McDonald on the audio board and Paul O'Neill getting us on YouTube. We do have one guest here in the 2 o'clock hour. In about 13 minutes, we'll talk to Jumbo Ronnie Rance, host of Sports Shorts Radio here on ESPN Baton Rouge every Saturday morning. He's also the president of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, so we'll see what's going on there. We'll also get Ronnie's thoughts on LSU football as the Tigers approach the season, and on the Saints as the Black and Gold are in training camp right now and keep taking lots of hits, losing lots of players, unfortunately. But we always open this hour with our daily countdown to kickoff segment, and today, friends, we are 37 days away from the season opener between LSU and UCLA inside of the Rose Bowl. First meeting between those two teams, first game ever for LSU inside of that stadium. And today we do have a player to highlight. We do have a number 37 on the roster, and I'm talking about Hunter Faust. I hope I'm saying his name right, but Hunter Faust is a junior linebacker out of Jesuit High School. Shout out to Gordy Rush. No, he went there. And his uncle, Joe Sherman, I don't know if any of you are baseball fans, big baseball fans, but Joe Sherman is a very respected name in the baseball community, in the college baseball community, because he's a Hall of Fame head baseball coach at Delgado Community College in New Orleans, and they have a very successful program. Many of their players have come to play for LSU in the back end of their college career. Very respected man. He is Hunter Faust's uncle. Hunter Faust is the nephew of Joe Sherman, the legendary head baseball coach. And as I highlighted him, usually I don't have much to say about these guys, especially not Hunter Faust, who has only played in 4 games in his LSU career so far. Was a walk-on coming out of Jesuit. But Scott Rabelais wrote an article about him a couple years back, and he kind of has a cool story. And in this article, he interviews Joe Sherman, who is the head coach of Delgado Baseball. And according to his uncle, Hunter Faust broke his ankle his senior year at Jesuit, and he didn't know if he was going to have the chance to keep playing college football. And he was kind of leaning towards, should I go to LSU where I'm not going to have a scholarship? I would have to be a walk-on, or should I go do something else? And after talking with his uncle, he convinced him to keep playing college football, and he's still on the team for LSU, or at least he's on at lsusports.net. So my message for Hunter Faust is to keep grinding. That's a good story. You should always do what you love, even if you have to sacrifice other things. You should always just go for it, because if you don't go for it, you don't know if you're capable or not. And you always have to follow your dreams and do it to the best of your ability. And Hunter Faust is a guy that did that despite all that adversity and breaking his ankle in high school. So shout out to him, number 37, Hunter Faust, as we're 37 days away now from LSU football. And as we continue to have some fun with numbers, 37 is significant because that's how many points LSU hung on the Florida Gators last year when they went to Gainesville and upset the number 6 ranked Florida team. 37-34 in favor of LSU, and we've talked about this game a lot on this show, and as we should. It was a very memorable game. Everybody remembers Marco Wilson throwing the shoe and Florida's playoff hopes pretty much being dashed, having only one loss up to that point to Texas A&M. But the narrative around that game in the last couple of days has been the performance of Max Johnson, right? And whether or not he's solely responsible, or he's the reason, maybe not solely responsible, but the main reason that LSU was able to win that game in Florida. And yesterday, again, I said this in the last hour, but some people were coming at me on Twitter, so I just feel like I need to clarify that I wasn't saying Max was bad and doesn't deserve credit. I just wish people would kind of praise other things about his game besides the fact that LSU is 2-0. But whatever, he does deserve credit. The team did win those games, and Musso, I thought, made a really good point. The team did kind of look a little bit more inspired going into the Florida game. And again, maybe that's not just because of Max Johnson. Maybe that's the context of the team. Maybe the coaches deserve credit for that. But my point was Max played really well in that game, and obviously he has a really good chance to be a starter for LSU this season. We'll see if he does become the starter indeed. And I've made my opinion known on this show. I thought it was going to be, or I thought it should have been Miles Brennan. I thought he improved in every single game, but in the last couple of weeks, I've been saying that I think it is going to be Max Johnson, just based on everything I've heard, based on the reports coming out of what the coaches have said and stuff like that. It just looks like he is going to start week 1. But just because he starts week 1, I guess, doesn't mean he has to be the starting quarterback going forward. As me and Musso have said, you're always just one play away. And I guess all I do hope for is that nobody leaves in a situation where Max or Miles remains or is named the starting quarterback. We don't see any transfers. LSU has some depth, and LSU hopefully has a quarterback pipeline going forward, because in an ideal scenario, Miles Brennan could play this year, perform well. Max Johnson could be waiting in the wings, can play another year or a couple more years if he chooses to, and then you have Walker Howard coming onto campus from St. Thomas More. So I think that would be the ideal scenario, but either way, we will find out really, really soon. And you heard Coach O say it, that quarterback battle is neck and neck right now between Max Johnson and Miles Brennan. And the last bit of fun we'll have with numbers here, LSU dropped 37 points as we're 37 days away from the season. LSU dropped 37 points against Georgia in the 2019 SEC title game. It was a 37-10 win in favor of the Tigers, and everybody talked about Joe Burrow's performance in that game, and he killed it for sure. 349 yards, 4 touchdowns, had some memorable plays that we'll get into in a moment. But the first point I wanted to make is their defense. LSU's defense played really good in this game, holding Georgia to just 10 points and 286 yards of offense. And remember the narrative going into this game. Remember, LSU crushes A&M the week before, holds them to 7 points, and then they turn right back around and hold Georgia to 10 points. So you've held 2 SEC opponents back-to-back to a combined 17 points, one of them being the East champions. And before those 2 weeks, the College Football Committee themselves were saying that LSU was, quote-unquote, missing the defensive piece. And I will never forget Ross Dellinger tweeting out during that Texas A&M game that LSU, I think, heard the committee talking about them having a missing piece or missing a defense, the defense being the missing piece for LSU. And then they come into this Georgia game. Remember, they were ranked number 2. They were not ranked number 1 going into SEC championship weekend. They had to not just win this game against Georgia, but put out kind of a dominant performance if they were going to rise to that number 1 ranking and play Oklahoma in the college football playoff instead of having to face Clemson or Ohio State. So they had to dominate Georgia. They went out and they did that, not just Joe Burrow, but the defense as well. But getting back to Joe Burrow's performance for 1 second, he had some unforgettable plays in this ball game. The two to come to mind immediately for me is when he scrambled, avoided like 3 different Georgia defenders. And I remember my stepdad, as we're watching the replay, saying "Ole," because it looked like a soccer player, like Lionel Messi shaking somebody out of their cleats. Quarterbacks don't usually do that on the run against defensive linemen, but Joe Burrow did that. He finds Justin Jefferson wide open down the field. That's one of several big plays that he hit, but that's one of the 2 memorable ones for me. And then the other memorable one was when Joe Burrow completed a pass to Joe Burrow. He throws the ball. It's tipped at the line of scrimmage. He catches it, has like a 10-yard gain. That was a very memorable pass. And I said out loud, you have to be really good to complete a pass against yourself or to yourself against a defense of Georgia's caliber and complete it and be able to have a successful play. So that was a very memorable play for me as well. Joe Burrow dominated against Georgia in that one. And see if we have any more fun with numbers here. Don't believe we do. Thought I had another stat that had to do with the number 37, but we do not. What I can tell you guys is that we're 37 days away from the season opener between LSU and UCLA inside of the Rose Bowl. I'm starting to become a little bit more optimistic about that game. The spread has been, between 3 and 5 points the last couple of weeks or the last couple of months as we've talked about this game. But as we got a little bit closer, I wouldn't be surprised if that spread started going up a little bit more and people expected more people expect LSU to win this game by a little bit more of a comfortable margin against UCLA. So we'll see what happens in 37 days away from LSU and UCLA. Mario Jerez here in hour 3 of Middle Relief. We'll come back and talk to our lone guest for the show, or for this hour, Jumbo Ronnie Rance. Get his thoughts on several topics, including the New Orleans Saints and LSU football, as both teams are approaching their season. This is Middle Relief with Mario Jerez on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back to the show. NBA draft is tonight, and before we get to the Aaron Rodgers clips that I promised you guys, there is a bit of news, or I guess a rumor, right now on NBA Twitter, and this is coming from Adam Barai, who's an NBA insider for 5 Reasons Sports. He's also a contributor for Bleacher Report and for SI Now, 32,000 followers on Twitter. And Adam Barai tweets out, just saw this, Brandon Ingram would welcome a deal to the Miami Heat, per source. Timing is critical to any deal, and David Griffin will play hardball. The Heat and the Pelicans are chasing similar free agents, and the results of free agency will determine if there is a trade. If if a trade is there to be made. Excuse me. This is really confusing. I don't really understand this. I guess they're saying that if the Pelicans trade Brandon Ingram, they're maybe clearing up some cap space to sign somebody like Kyle Lowry. But even in that case, that doesn't make that much sense because you still have a lot of leftover cap space by getting rid of Brandon Ingram. So I thought I would mention this because this person seems pretty credible, working for Bleacher Report and for SI now, but don't really understand it. But again, apparently Ingram would welcome a deal to the Miami Heat, according to Adam Barai, and David Griffin is willing to play hardball. So we'll see what comes out of that. NBA draft is tonight. For what it's worth, I don't think that's true. I don't think the Pelicans are going to get rid of Brandon Ingram, but there's whispers. And on NBA draft night, you're going to hear things like this. I mean, people are always going to keep their options open. You don't know if the Pelicans might negotiate like that for some reason and then not really trade Brandon Ingram. My point is, you always see stuff like this, especially on draft day. But that will definitely be something to monitor going forward as far as the New Orleans Pelicans are concerned. All right, so Aaron Rodgers yesterday addressed the media at Green Bay Packers training camp, and he had a whole lot to say. And this comes a couple of days after it was reported that Aaron Rodgers would report to training camp and he would play for the Green Bay Packers this season. But that being said, Rodgers only did so with pretty much a list of demands that the Packers had to cater to. And those demands include voiding the final year in Rodgers' contract next season, 2023, with no tags allowed in the future. That'll basically let him pick his next team for the 2022 season and facilitate a trade. And the Packers would also have to review his situation at the end of the season, and that's what I'm talking about. I think what he's trying to get out of that agreement is that he can pretty much choose which team they trade him to. And there's already been a lot of teams rumored as far as his next team, but pretty much he's trying to set this up as a last dance situation to where it's his last season with the Green Bay Packers. And the final demand that he gave before he reported the training camp was that mechanisms had to be put in place to address Rodgers' issue with the team. And when we talked about this yesterday, I said that's a pretty funny way to put it. Mechanisms will be put in place to address his issues. What does that mean? Well, I think the first thing it means is that the Packers gave Aaron Rodgers permission to just completely roast their organization at the press conference yesterday without even having to think about it, without having to hesitate. And he had a whole lot to say, but basically the gist of his message is that he was really mad that Green Bay made a lot of personnel decisions, many of them involving some of Aaron Rodgers' closest friends and closest teammates, and they just did not apparently advise him on any of these moves. And he was very clear that he didn't want final say, but they apparently have not consulted with them at all when it comes to free agency. This is going to be Rodgers 1, and this is what he had to say on wanting more say on team decisions for the Packers going forward.
I think I have a unique perspective being in the locker room and having been the starter here for 13 years and being here for 16 years. There's not many people who've been in a position of influence longer than I have in this building. So it gives me a unique perspective to shed light on how things work together. One of the most important things is chemistry and cohesion in an organization, and I think I can offer an interesting perspective. It's not where I need to have final say on anything. I never asked for that. I just want to be in a conversation. I'm interested in how they look at certain players and if they value character, if they value chemistry, if they value what they bring to the locker room.
That's reasonable. And if this was anybody besides Aaron Rodgers, I think everybody would be saying this guy is way out of pocket. He's doing way too much. But when you consider everything that's happened and when you consider some other stuff that Rodgers said, including that he's been in that building longer than most of the executives, being with the Green Bay Packers since 2005 and being a Super Bowl champion, all the accolades that he has, including being the NFL reigning MVP, you think would give him, the right to be at least consulted on these decisions, but apparently he wasn't. And as I said, he was mad about how they handled the end of a lot of his teammates' careers in Green Bay. This is going to be Rodgers too, and this is what he had to say about Green Bay not consulting him on a lot of personnel decisions that he was not okay with.
Jordy Nelson, Julius Peppers, Clay Matthews, Randall Cobb, James Jones, John Kuhn, Brett Good, TJ Lang, Brian Balaga, Casey Hayward, Micah Hyde, guys who were exceptional players for us, but great locker room guys, high character guys. Many of them who weren't offered a contract at all, or were extremely lowballed, or were, maybe in my opinion, not given the respect on the way out that guys of their status and stature and high character deserve.
Yeah, see, that's the last thing he said, given the respect they deserve. I think that's really what he's mad about, not the fact that, they cut all my friends, so I'm going to be mad and yell at the team. I don't think that's what's happening here. What's happening is Rodgers, who, again, has been in the building longer than a lot of these executives, and I think is older than his head coach, if maybe somebody could verify that. But I think he's not mad that they cut those guys. He's just mad at the lack of respect that he was shown. And he's talking about some legends there as far as the Green Bay Packers are concerned and their franchise. If you're going to let go of Jordy Nelson, the least you can do is show him some respect on the way out, given all that he's done for Green Bay. I think that's the point that he was trying to make. Not that, the organization has to do everything that he says. They need to keep every single player that they like. But you can tell that he has a lot more pull now, because as soon as this happened, what happened? They trade for Randall Cobb, Aaron Rodgers' old friend that he really liked. But there's some stats to back it up. I mean, in 2014, he hooked up with Randall Cobb a lot, and he was one of the leading receivers in the NFL. But that was 7 years ago. Might be a little past his prime. But it just goes to show that Green Bay is giving Rodgers a lot more pull here, and they're definitely giving respect to the players that he respects. One thing, this really stuck out to me, and this was probably the most savage thing that he said. This is going to be Rodgers 3, and he talked about why people come to Green Bay, and in the progress might have thrown a little slight at the town where he plays his NFL games.
So I wanted to offer my services as a recruiter, and I think we can all understand, Green Bay isn't, a huge vacation destination. People are coming here to play with me, to play with our team, and knowing that they can win a championship here. And the fact that I haven't been used in those discussions was one I wanted to change moving forward.
Oh, my goodness. That is some pretty savage stuff, right? Green Bay is not a vacation destination. Guys are coming here to play with me. That is really strong words from a quarterback in the NFL, I think. But again, if this was anybody except Aaron Rodgers, there's no way he'd be getting away with this. But again, not just how good he's been, not just the MVPs and the accolades, but common sense. The Jordan Love thing was terrible, and I feel really bad for Jordan Love because there's nothing that he could do about it. But if you were Aaron Rodgers, you're trying to win your second Super Bowl ring, and you understand that they have to build for the future, but still, it being a first-round pick, and then apparently you not consulting with him in the way that you should have, I think really bothered him. It's clear that he didn't like that personnel move, but they also didn't like how they went about doing that, and I think anybody could understand. Now, my worry here, the thing that concerns me a little bit, and I don't know why I use this name as an example, but it's always just what comes to mind. Like, any quarterback is going to think they have this power. If any quarterback has a hot couple of weeks, they're going to think, oh, why are you not advising me? Why didn't we pick up this guy that's on the waiver wire? If they get paid, if they have a little bit more sustained success, they might not ask for more money, and then when they don't get that, they speak out. My point is Aaron Rodgers can do this, but I'm a little worried that like a Seneca Wallace will think that he'd be able to do this, and that is not a good precedent to set. But we're talking about the NFL MVP here. We're talking about a guy that's not just mad at the personnel decisions, but again, mad about how they went about it. So these were some really, really strong words from Aaron Rodgers, but again, given the context, you kind of see where he's coming from, and you remember that it's, as he said it, Aaron freaking Rodgers. So nobody else would get away with it, but I do think it's kind of funny, and Aaron Rodgers, if anything, deserves a little bit of credit for dragging it out as long as he did. It clearly got to the point where Green Bay was like, okay, we're not going to trade you, and we don't want you to retire. Please play for us. We'll do anything. And Aaron Rodgers was like, okay, here's my list of demands. Here's what I want. And by the way, I'm going to get on the podium and say whatever the hell they want. And apparently Green Bay is okay with that just for 1 year of Aaron Rodgers. That's how good he is. So yet to be seen what will happen in the future with Rodgers. Again, they voided that last deal of his contract and made them pretty much promise that they'd evaluate his situation and facilitate a trade. So if that's what he wants, again, they had to evaluate his situation. We'll see what happens. If Green Bay wins the title, does that change things? I don't know. A whole lot of unanswered questions still with the Green Bay Packers as far as how they'll do this season, but we know Aaron Rodgers will be there, and given his words, it might be a little awkward over there in Green Bay. So Aaron Rodgers will be the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, and he had lots to say at yesterday's press conference. We have made it to the end of the show. The interaction in the chat has been excellent today, so please keep that up and get your questions into the YouTube chat for our last segment. Y'all know what time it is. Ask Us. Use the hashtag #AskUs in the YouTube chat. Ask me anything about sports or about life. I will answer your questions. Again, football questions are encouraged as we're 37 days away from LSU football and a couple weeks away from the NFL preseason. Ask Us is next here on Middle Relief with Mario Jerez, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
What's up, people? Time to wrap up the show. Mario Jerez coming at you live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. Before we get to Ask Us, just want to thank all our guests that came on today. Ross Jackson of the Locked On Saints podcast, as well as Will Guillory of The Athletic, giving us some NBA insight on NBA draft night, and Jumbo Ronnie Ranch, who's always a good time, and teaching us about the Playboy All-American team. That is something I did not know about before today, but Tommy Casanova was on it. He wore number 37 for LSU, as we're 37 days away from the season opener. Shout out to Tommy Casanova, LSU legend and college football legend. With that being said, let's get into Ask Us, last segment of the show. And the first question in the YouTube chat has to do with Aaron Rodgers, who we were talking about last segment. Question is, if Aaron would have ran the ball for the touchdown in the NFC Championship game, will we even be talking about this? Maybe not. I mean, depending on what happened in the Super Bowl, maybe. I don't know, man. I'm struggling to answer this question, Brent, because so much of what's happening with Green Bay and with Aaron Rodgers, I think, is like behind the scenes stuff. And I get that Aaron Rodgers kind of comes off like a jerk. There's stories about him and his family, but you just don't know if you're not in that building. And you do have to consider that he has been in that building longer than a lot of the executives, and he is a big reason why, obviously, they have had that success. So I'm not sure. I guess to answer your question, maybe we would still be talking about this, because whatever's going on is something that has to do with not football, with what's not going on the field. So I think we would still be talking about this. Ask us, sparkling water or still water? Definitely still water. I'm not a big sparkling water person. Are you, Kevin?
No, honestly, I hate sparkling water. Like something about the carbonation with no taste, it just bothers me a lot.
So when you go to Latin America, you can get orange juice, but carbonated orange juice. That's if you ask for carbonated orange juice anywhere here, they would look at you crazy. But you can do that in Guatemala. Every time I go to Guatemala or Mexico or any Latin American country, I get myself a naranjada con soda, which is orange juice with carbonated water, and that is really good.
Yeah, that sounds like that would appeal to me way more if that had like a flavor.
Yeah, come to Guatemala, man. I'll show you a naranjada con soda. Hashtag Ask Us, better year for Chase or for Justin Jefferson in the NFL this year? That is a great question. I'm going to go Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson puts up close to the numbers he did last year. It's going to be tough to top with him breaking all those records. I still think Chase has an awesome season. It's possible that they both still put up really, really good numbers, but Jefferson's stats are just a little bit better. And the Bengals should probably run the ball a little bit more. We've been talking so much about their passing attack, but Joe Mixon is a really good running back. They've tried to address some stuff on the offensive line through free agency, so maybe the Bengals can have success without Jamar Chase having to put up those video game numbers. And by the way, they still have T. Higgins too, who's an awesome receiver. He got hurt last year, and apparently a lot of people forgot about him. But I'm gonna say Justin Jefferson. That might not be the most common answer to that question, but I think Justin Jefferson has a bigger year than Jamar Chase. But I think Jamar Chase still has a really good season. Ask Mario, do you smoke cigars? I don't, but on special occasions I have. Like when we won the championship game, I did. Or when LSU won the championship game, I did. Well, I called the game as a Spanish broadcast announcer. We're an affiliate. Does that count as a we? Either way, I smoked a cigar that night. Usually I do not smoke cigars. Hashtag Ask Us, favorite guilty pleasure TV show. That's a good one. While I think about it, do you have a favorite guilty pleasure TV show, Kevin?
I definitely have one. Mine is 90 Day Fiancé. I cannot get enough of 90 Day Fiancé. I watch that show in my free time, and I just think it's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Okay. Reality shows. I love watching the old MTV reruns when they're on, like Room Raiders and stuff like that. That counts as a guilty pleasure. I guess Parental Control. That was the one that was so stupid, but I like to watch it just because of how much people acted. The acting was so bad. It was so staged, and I enjoyed how comedically bad that it was. So that might be my favorite guilty pleasure TV show. Hashtag Ask Us, favorite vegetable. Favorite vegetable is definitely cucumber, and I'm honestly not a huge vegetable person. I should definitely eat more vegetables, but cucumber is one of the few that I enjoy. So I'm going to say cucumber is my favorite vegetable. Hashtag Ask Mario, favorite burger in Baton Rouge. Ooh, Curbside on Government Street's really good. I don't know if I can get in trouble by saying all these restaurants, but I'm going to answer y'all's questions. Not sure if they sponsor us or whatever, but Curbside is a really, really good burger. It's probably the best burger I've had in Baton Rouge so far. Hashtag Ask Us, what will be the score of the women's soccer game tomorrow morning between Holland and USA. Well, the USA women have been struggling a little bit, right? Or have they won since they lost that game? I'm not sure. But Holland is pretty good at men's soccer. Not sure if they're good at women's soccer. Let's say a tie, Nookie. 1-1, USA and Holland. Hashtag ask us, best place in Baton Rouge to get chicken wings. Pluckers. Pluckers is awesome. They have really good cheese fries as well. Definitely good at Pluckers. Hashtag ask us, favorite kind of cheesecake. That's a tie. Because I like the chocolate cheesecakes, but I also like the ones that have the strawberry drizzle. Not fully strawberry, not fully coated, but just a little smidge of strawberry to go with the traditional cheesecake. It's a tie between that and chocolate cheesecake. That will do it for today's show. This is Middle Relief on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Coming up next, after further review with Matt Moscona and Matt Musso. Talk to y'all tomorrow.